what's the best way for a guy to learn this? Because I think all guys want to learn this, but I think a lot of guys are like, I'm just gonna stick with whatever because I'm afraid, because I don't want to mess up doing it. And it doesn't feel like me. It's not in my character. You know what I mean? You get all these kind of excuses, but they'd really love to be that guy. But can they be that guy? How do they go about that?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Like, I mean, you and me would agree on this, that we don't agree that you're sort of deterministic idea of, your life. Like, you can change things, you can change your body, you can change, like, I changed my wang or whatever, and you can, and this is like, sex is a skill just like any other, right? So if a guy says to me like, oh, I'm not very dominant in the bedroom, I could never do that kind of stuff, well, that's a lie, because I couldn't do it when I was 18 either.
Right.
I learned how to do this like over consistent time, trial and experience. Like, for those of you who might not be familiar with my background, not only am I an adult film star, I also used to work as a high-class male companion back in Australia, where it's legal. I used to service wealthy businesswomen for money and that sort of stuff. So I've been paid for the better part of the last decade to do this stuff professionally. So I've picked up a trick or two. And for me, there's sort of 4 elements that guys sort of need to get their heads around to sort of progress to the point where they're very, very dominant in the bedroom, or go from being vanilla to being more dominant, right? And those 4 elements to me are like leading the sexual interaction, because honest to God, some guys just lay there and are like a star. No joke. They literally do this. Like, they're just like a starfish, like the male equivalent of a starfish. It's just horrible.
Yeah.
The second thing is they need to demonstrate that they're more physically dominant. They need to physically dominate her in some way, shape, or form, right?
Yeah.
And the third thing is that they need to throw in an element of, this sounds bad, but I'm going to say it anyway, an element of degradingness. This when I say degrading, this is really just going down the realm of like being kinky and perverted and naughty and dirty. Like things like butt stuff. That's kind of degrading in a way. Like, I'm not talking necessarily about like, calling her mean names and making her cry. I mean, don't get me wrong, some girls are actually into that, but there's varying degrees of this. And then the fourth element I throw in is this idea of being sadistic, which is the idea of delivering pleasure through pain. So this is actually BDSM stuff. This is like floggers and riding crops and spanking and this sort of stuff, right? So these sort of 4 elements really, really help a guy to demonstrate that he is dominant in the bedroom. And this is like a 2-way street as well. Like, when a guy, because like you said with the example we gave before, where the guy is like shaking, holding the gun or whatever, right? That's like the incongruence between thoughts, words, and actions, right? But when you start to do more dominant things in the bedroom consistently, it inevitably reinforces a more dominant frame of mind. You can't get away from it, because the 2 are interconnected, right? In the same way, it goes the other way around as well. If you think more dominant thoughts, you are more likely to just act upon them and act more physically dominant just by virtue of the way you're thinking and your belief system, right? So that absolutely goes both ways. Like, and so as a guy starts to learn this stuff and he starts to develop, starts to control a bit more, starts to be more physically dominant, maybe a bit more perverted, degrading, maybe a bit more sadistic, he then starts to emulate the naturally dominant behaviors of a guy with far more experience than him in the bedroom.
Right. Yeah, that makes perfect sense.